We are here to talk about the best albums of the past month. As always, we do this every month. I don't know if you guys even like the series, to be honest. I like to do it though. I like to document my favourites of each month. I like to add in albums that perhaps you haven't heard, and perhaps they get a second wind of some kind of exposure in case you didn't even know they came out at all, or if you weren't even aware of them existing at all. You might not have known. And I like to do the series to highlight what my favourites are, and I'm just going to kick straight off with Vale-Smith. I'm just going to go straight into it. Not going to ramble on forever. I don't want to do that to you. We got Vale-Smith starting off. It was technically right at the end of August it came out, but the second win thing is definitely where I'm going with this one here, to be honest. I just wanted to save this one for September, and hopefully gives this a boost again, because it's been really popular for Vale-Smith. It's been one of his most successful albums to date, and if no one's heard it yet, then please listen to it now if you've only just found out about it from this video, because Rekindle is a really, really good album. It's definitely up there with his best. I still personally prefer a couple of his other projects, but actually some of the directions he was taking, some of the tracks like Ice, is just like really exciting. Like, I cannot stress enough how excited I am to see where he takes some of these ideas going forward. And I think he'd be a fool not to go even further with them. And I think deep down he knows that he's got ideas, kind of toying with where he's taking this sound even further. I think he deep down knows that's the right thing to do, and it better be, because I want to hear more. Highly anticipated album, this one for me. I was actually dead set certain that this could potentially be another high year-end lister because of his last one, but Pierre Bourne, Good Movie, look, it's a really good album. It is really good. It's addictive, just in the same way that his previous work has been. The transitions are once again, experimental, but it just didn't quite click into place like The Life of Pierre 4, which was like my third favourite album of last year, I think. It was in the top 3, man. It was a high one for me. An unexpected high one too. And I think this is just an extension of that, with some really great tracks on it. But it just didn't, you just feel something, and it just didn't quite hit that feeling. And this one is still a really great album in its own right though, and perhaps absolutely needs to be mentioned. Just like this Ari Lennox album, man. Ari Lennox, didn't really care for a debut that much, and I thought it was nice enough. It was an okay album, there wasn't anything bad about it really, but it just didn't really click with me in the way that other modern R&B artists have done. But right out the gate with POF, god damn, she is sensual as hell on this album. It is smooth as fuck. The whole thing is just lovely stuff, honestly. Really, really impressed with this one. It could end up being my version of last year's Tinashe album, which initially I gave a 7 out of 10, which I'm about there with Ari Lennox. But by the end of the year, I just kept going back to it, and ultimately it ended up being one of my favourite albums of the whole year. It could have that with it, to be honest. It's going to at least be an honourable mention, just for the growth alone from that first album to this one. It's huge. Really good stuff. Not one that came out this month, but anyone that keeps up with this series knows that I always just highlight albums that I'm a bit late to. Jeigo with his really fantastic IDM tech house album here. I've been all over this genre for the past couple of years, and this was just one of those albums that really clicked for me. I keep saying clicked. I've said clicked about 5 times in this whole video. This is depressing. I need to get original. But yes, Jeigo, fantastic work here. Definitely a year-end lister. There's no denying that one with this album here. Really good stuff. And just check out my review. I was gushing all over it in that, if you want to hear more thoughts, because there's no point repeating myself again. Want to mention Avantdale Bowling Club next. A really impressive album with some of the best hip-hop writing you'll hear all year. I don't know why Avantdale Bowling Club isn't a bigger name, especially in the world of hip-hop, and especially in the world of hip-hop where there's so much love for talking about class and talking about emotions and talking about just all those kinds of things that just seem to go over really well for a lot of listeners. I mean, I guess not in mainstream hip-hop. I mean, that isn't really the case at all. The top chart, the top songs charting in hip-hop aren't really like that, but the nerds of hip-hop love this shit, right? And I just don't feel like Avondale Bowling Club gets his due. They are a bigger collective, and it's of course Tom Scott, But as a rapper, Tom Scott does not get his due at all. Maybe it's because they're from New Zealand and that's just not really a place where hip hop is booming generally. But this is a really good album and a great follow-up, honestly, to the debut, which was my album of the year, by the way, in 2018. So to follow that up with something really good here, yeah, just props to them. All right, we're gonna go into like the three big ones for me now for the month. Courting, really impressed with Courting here. I just think this whole genre of talky, post-punky rock bands from the UK that you can list off about 10 of them that are really starting to grow and rise in the world of rock music at the moment. I'm not going to say all their names, you know who they are. It could feel like it's getting a bit flooded. And I actually saw a little tweet recently, and it was not long after this album came out, where someone was saying like, look, this whole thing is just getting a bit played out. There's too many of these bands now. And I don't know if it was a bit of a diss or a bit of a subtweet towards this band. I don't really know. But even still, they just killed it. Like, this is just so good. Like, it's just so good. And the thing what I like about this album as well is that I didn't really feel like every track was the same. And I think some of these bands have a bit of a tendency to release albums where all of the tracks are following the same thing. And this one didn't really feel like that. You know, you had tracks like Tennis, which was what they were known for initially, very much of the Fall ilk, you know, the band The Fall. But so much of the rest of the album, I didn't feel like was copying that same pattern at all. Like, I didn't feel like Loaded was the same. And Jumper Man, a fantastic song, like a fantastic track that feels more like an indie pop tune, if anything. So yeah, I was impressed with Courting on this one. A really, really good outing for their debut, and it just tickles that itch that I have for this kind of music. I'm kind of just going to cheat here. Before I recorded this video, I wasn't going to do this, but as I'm in the midst of recording it, I'm going to cheat and just give two albums my album of the month. I have done this before, and you might want to call it cheating. I have done it in the past a few times. I would never do this for a year-end list, by the way. Don't worry, I'm never going to give two albums my album of the year. It's just because these videos are less significant that I'm just cheating here. But I'm going to give it to both Emperor X and Jockstrap. Now, I was hesitant to give it Emperor X just because the album's actually been out quite a while. But officially, it was released onto streaming in September. But just as an indie rock release, this is just too good. Like, the writing on it is so sharp. The hooks are just so fun and anthemic, and it doesn't quite reach the heights of Western Teleport, which is a fantastic album, the best album in my opinion of 2011 by quite a distance as well. No diss on 2011 music, I just think it is the best album by quite a distance for that year. And it doesn't quite reach the heights of that, but it gets bloody close. Like, there's some fantastic tracks that go for the raging pop punky bangers that they've known to do in the past. And they still have that wit, they still have that clever approach to writing. It's just such a great listen. And the final track too felt quite unique for them, but it worked for them as well. And it's just a great album. And Jockstrap kind of on the opposite end of this, where it feels like their style is totally fresh and new. Like, I can compare Emperor X to a lot of artists, but Jockstrap is really difficult to compare to people right now. I think they are an incredibly creative duo that are doing things that could potentially go far in the world of influence in music. And you can cut this clip right now and see where we are in a few years, but I seriously feel like this could be something. And I feel, honestly, as good as this album is and as great as it is, I feel like they've got more to offer. Like, I feel like this was like, you know, when an artist like makes music, but they've made it a while ago, and obviously the process of releasing music is quite slow. I feel like this was probably done maybe over a year ago, and they're currently like making music that's even beyond what this is right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like they're gonna push this genre or this style even further and put out something even crazier next time. But even still, regardless of all that, what they've given us on this album is great. Glasgow, fantastic song. The vocals are really unique and creative. The instrumentals are really glossy and colourful and weird. Yeah, it's such a good album. But I'm going to tie it with album of the month with Emperor X, because I've just had such a great time with that album recently, playing it loads. And yeah, Both are just equally as fantastic. And that's going to be it. That is it from me. That is my rundown of the best releases of the past month. But don't click off the video yet. Please stay. Unless you already have clicked off, then that's fine. That's sad, but fine. But I'm going to leave you off with some songs that I'll play. And the songs are my favourites of the past month, so you'll get some recommendations there too. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what your favourites are. Subscribe if you haven't already. And here are the songs.
When you come around, you're pressing me like genuine, so anxiously.
Once a couple